Good morning. You're listening to Trusting God at All Times, a daily devotion from Peakland United Methodist Church in Lynchburg, Virginia. I'm Andrew, the deacon here at Peakland. Back during Advent, I led a small group study on a book called Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. The story is a fictionalized retelling, essentially, of the parable of the sower. It takes place in a post-apocalyptic world, and the main character has found herself at a point where she cannot agree with the religion, the Christianity of her father, who happens to be a priest. Throughout the book, she slowly, as she leaves her town, begins sharing her own theology, her own beliefs with other people. She creates essentially what she's calling her own religion. She calls it Earthseed. And the heart of what this religion is that God is the force of change in the world. Nothing can avoid being changed, being affected by change. And we either have the option to stand and resist change, resist God, or to let ourselves go, flow with change, and potentially shape how the world will become. Now, the book is written by a Christian author trying to give us a new way to look at this parable, framing it under a different context so that it's a little bit easier to understand what she's trying to say. I love this book. And I can't tell you how often the idea of God is change has sat with me. I recently was watching a YouTube video, and it was a concert at the Kennedy Center. There's a single pianist up front, and he starts out playing Midnight Sonata. As he continues to play through it, though, he starts changing it. All of a sudden, he's playing Beethoven and Chopin together, merged into one piece. And the next thing you know, he's actually got an electronic accompaniment that he kicks in that goes with Midnight Sonata. Now, this is a concert in the Kennedy Center. But in addition to what's going on with the audience there, the video is being sent live to people to watch at the same time. And there are hundreds of people watching this concert live, able to comment on it as it goes. So as the video progresses, there's actually clips of the comment section of people watching the concert live. Essentially, we get the opportunity to see two different audiences. The one who is what we would assume and call normal, sitting, watching, enjoying, silently making sure not to disrupt the concert. And then what we would probably call the unorthodox group. The group that is actually commenting and responding to things live as they happen. It made me think a lot about how our annual conferences, the gatherings of all of our churches in Virginia, function. I actually only have Twitter because during annual conference, people will tweet about what's going on. Some of it will be responding, some of it will be disagreement. But the point is that the conversation is not limited to just listening anymore. The conversation can continue. We can reflect as a group on what we are hearing. As I was reflecting on these two live conversations happening during regular events, it made me think back on God is change. And it made me think about Easter. You see, Easter is such a day of change. In our normal Christian calendar, it has turned into a high point. It's the day we look forward to. Some people have even called us Easter people living in a Good Friday world. But one of the major points of Easter is that the whole world changes on Easter. The death, the resurrection of Jesus is a reminder that the world that the Jewish people had been living with, the laws, the expectations, the rules, had changed. And it was time for them to change too. As we travel through this season of Lent, as we move towards this day of Easter, the season of Easter and the season of new life, rebirth, and change, I invite you to join me in reflecting on where God is calling us to grow, where God is calling us to change, and where God's Spirit is leading us tomorrow. Amen.